This is a production of Florida State University.
Coming up on FSU Headlines, the MagLab sets a new world record. Middle schoolers get a glimpse of college at summer camp. And a new era begins as a legendary coach says farewell. Stay tuned for these stories and more. FSU Headlines starts now. Hello and welcome to Florida State University, and welcome to another edition of FSU Headlines. I'm your host, Dennis Schnitker. Florida State University is home to the National High Magnetic Field Laboratory. Scientists from around the world use the lab's magnets to conduct groundbreaking scientific research in a variety of areas. But the MagLab doesn't just operate the magnets, it builds them. And the MagLab team is constantly seeking to build bigger and more powerful magnets for science. But sometimes bigger and more powerful doesn't always mean bigger. FSU Headlines reporter Mark Vaughn explains.
The idea that we can create 14 Tesla with a winding which is less than a centimeter thick is really amazing.
The FSU headquartered High Magnetic Field Laboratory is reaching new records thanks to a new milestone in magnetic field production.
What we've done with this test coil is to show the way forward. And the way forward is to use much better superconductor.
It's small but powerful. The size of a cardboard tissue roll, this magnet test coil has generated a world record magnetic field of 45.5 Tesla.
And so we were able to get very early examples of these and test it inside one of the lab's resistive user magnets.
As chief material scientist at the MagLab and a professor at the FAMU FSU College of Engineering, David Labalestier knows how big this small magnet stands when it comes to future research.
But the key point is the superconducting magnet still remains superconducting even under the highest strength conditions. And so this shows the route forward into the 40, the 50 Tesla and above.
The MagLab already had the distinction of world record holder for the world's strongest continuous magnetic field for the past 20 years. It reached 45 Tesla and weighs about 35 tons. Labalestier knows all too well how tough it can be to break new ground in magnetic fields. But if you want to go bigger, then you make something smaller. Or at least that seems to be the answer in this case.
And so this follows on beyond the 32 Tesla superconducting user magnet, which is now being readied for use. And it just shows there's lots of legs in this technology.
So what led to this discovery and testing? David explains that MagLab engineer Sung Young Han put a theory to work, and it worked out.
He developed this very, very compact way of winding a magnet.
This shows the way forward using electromagnets that are smaller, stronger, and more versatile than ever. This work was published in the journal Nature, and the research as well as future research to potentially put this record breaker into use is being funded by the National Science Foundation. For FSU Headlines, I'm Mark Vaughn.
The MagLab is funded in part by the National Science Foundation. It's the only national laboratory in the state of Florida. A tiny protein could play a major role in combating heart failure in young children afflicted with a lethal genetic disorder. That's according to a new study spearheaded by Florida State University and UCLA researchers.
So Duchenne muscular dystrophy is the most common lethal disorder in children, and it occurs in around 1 to 3,500 live male births. And I think one of the key issues here is that despite genetic screening, that there are incidences where people can still give birth to boys with DMD even though they have no prior family history. So it's a disease that will remain in the population and something that we really need to address. We were looking at this protein sarcospan that's associated with the protein dystrophin, and dystrophin is actually the protein that is missing or defective in Duchenne muscular dystrophy. When the protein's missing, then the cell membranes of all muscle will become weak and the muscles will deteriorate and become weakened over time. We found that overexpression or increasing the amount of sarcospan expression actually can correct the cardiac problems in DMD, and the fact that your cardiac function is the thing that really determines how long you can live. I think it's important if we can improve function as well as prevent damage. And so the earlier that could be done, the better for these patients. So what I've learned that the cell membrane actually remodels quite a bit in the heart. And so even beyond just muscular dystrophy, I'm looking at how these changes occur in people with heart failure and other genetic conditions. So I'm going to basically extend the scope of what I've done and, of course, maintain my interest in DMD as well. I think that if I can come up with something that help extend life or improve life for children or anyone, I would consider myself to have actually accomplished my life mission.
The research is part of a long-term collaboration between researchers at FSU and UCLA. You can read more about it at news.fsu.edu. A pioneering new study led by Florida State University biologists could fundamentally change our understanding of how embryonic stem cells differentiate into specific cell types. This new research calls into question decades of scientific consensus about the behavior of embryonic stem cells as they transition to become specific digestive or respiratory cells. FSU professor of molecular biology David Gilbert says the study upends well-established notions of when embryonic stem cells chart their unalterable courses.
Because some of our assumptions have to be tossed out, and that's always a very healthy thing in research. You go back and rethink some of your assumptions, and it helps you redesign experiments, etc. For stem cell research, what's important to understand is stem cell research basically for society is regenerative medicine. Can we remake tissues that are dying in our bodies as we age or as we have injuries, etc., cancer, other things? We want to be able to replace those tissues with healthy tissue. The name of the game, again, is understanding how to change cell types from one type into another. So anything that can help us understand what it is to be a committed type, to be a cell type that's difficult to turn into another cell type, will help us understand how to turn one cell type into another cell type.
The study was published in the journal Stem Cell Reports. You can read the full story at news.fsu.edu. Florida State University is a national leader in student success. For example, its four-year graduation rate is #1 in the state of Florida and among the top 10 in the nation. Now the university plans to enhance its lead by adopting an experiential learning requirement for undergraduate students. The result? One of the most diverse and robust talent pipelines in the country.
Experiential learning is hands-on, applied learning that takes place outside the traditional classroom setting. Things like internships or international study or undergraduate research or service in the community. These are things that enable the world to be a student's classroom and that immerse students and challenge them in new roles, in new projects, in new professional settings, in new organizations that really help them develop the skills that they'll need in college and also afterward as they transition into employment in their careers. Many people have asked of higher education in the U.S., what is the value? What do you get out of it? And higher education is about more than a credential. It's about helping students develop to their fullest potential. And often that can't be measured on whether just a student graduates or not. And it's hard to measure that fully, but one measure is ask, what happens to students after they graduate? Are they thriving across all the realms of their lives? And what we find in experiential learning is that it really enables students to thrive after they graduate. And it's part of our answer to the question, what happens to students after graduation? Well, we can make sure that our students have the best chances of success after they leave, that they can get into the graduate schools, into the programs that they desire, and get into employment that's meaningful and fulfilling and sets them on a career trajectory for success and meaningful contribution to our society.
And Florida State University now becomes the largest public university in the country to require experiential learning for graduation. Well, coming up next, we head to the water for a unique diving program that's training tomorrow's marine researchers.
A number of researchers at FSU who were using scuba for research, and they wanted to join forces and share best practices. And so that's what they did. They came together, they started sharing equipment, they started sharing ideas, and they created really standards for how they should operate safely.
We'll learn all about the FSU Academic Diving Program. That story when FSU Headlines continues in a moment.
We are Florida State University.
When you buy a Florida State University license plate,
you're not just showing your school spirit.
You're supporting students like us.
In the lab,
in the classroom,
and in the library.
Putting this tag on your vehicle helps Florida State students achieve their dreams. So show your pride. Purchase an FSU license plate today.
Hello and welcome back to FSU Headlines. I'm Dennis Schnitker. Florida State University's Academic Diving Program was established in 1975. The program oversees and supports underwater research for students, faculty, and staff from the FSU Coastal and Marine Laboratory, the Departments of Anthropology, Earth, Ocean, and Atmospheric Science, Geography, and the Department of Biological Sciences. While much of the work is conducted in the Gulf of Mexico, research studies can also extend as far south as Panama and Belize and north all the way to British Columbia. We recently spoke with the team about the benefits of having a renowned program like this at FSU.
The Academic Diving Program was founded in the mid-70s. Essentially, at the time, they had a number of researchers at FSU who were using scuba for research, and they wanted to join forces and share best practices. So that's what they did. They came together, they started sharing equipment, they started sharing ideas, and they created really standards for how they should operate safely. There's a lot of training that we can get done in the pool. We can certainly simulate experiences, we can simulate some of the challenges that Gulf of Mexico can bring, that the Pacific Ocean can bring, but there's nothing quite like being out there. Feeling the currents, seeing the lack of visibility. The Gulf of Mexico is not always clear. The Osceola River is not always clear. You've got to learn to operate in these very low visibility conditions and be comfortable in doing so. And so that's why a big part of our class is getting into the field and spending as much time in the field as we can. The pinnacle of our class is a training charter aboard the RV Appalachie. So on May 11th, we went out, we visited K Tower, which is a retired navigational Air Force beacon, and we dove. And while the students are down there, they're collecting measurements, they're surveying the site, they're practicing taking data, they're practicing underwater communication. And so that's one of the things that we really strive for the Scientific Diving Workshop, is to provide those experiences and grow that comfort zone. So while I'm especially interested in the local research, the reality is when we have research going on around the globe, while they all come back here and they get their training and they get their equipment here and they come through the Academic Diving Program to ensure that best practices are being followed, the research itself is operating on a much bigger scale. And I think that's really exciting. It's cool to be a part of something that is so global.
Summer is far from quiet here on campus, but a reduced number of students and classes does allow the university to connect with a different set of young minds. Summer is when middle school boys and girls spend a week on FSU's campus learning all about college. It's the FSU College of Social Work's Arts and Athletics Camp, and it has a little bit of everything for these students.
3, 2, all right, buddy up, let's go!
The College of Social Work Arts and Athletics Camp is in its 8th year. We primarily serve 11 to 14-year-olds, so middle school aged at-risk youth in the Tallahassee, Leon County, and surrounding areas.
Ready? Down. Down.
Camp is really tailored towards getting them excited about higher education, getting them excited about the opportunities that college has.
This is my favorite camp I've ever done. It's just cool doing it because like you never did it before.
Super gratifying that each of them seem to have some sort of light bulb moment throughout the week, and getting to be a part of that and getting them to say like, oh my gosh, I want to come back for another week. But sadly, we can only do 1 week each summer for each camper. But getting them excited about all of the different things that we're exposing them to and having them have those light bulb moments is definitely rewarding.
The camp is designed to give children between the ages of 11 and 14 a glimpse into the college experience and introduce them to the college environment firsthand with fun and engaging activities. Well, students weren't the only learners spending time at summer camp. A group of elementary, middle, and high school science teachers also benefited from a special Florida State-led summer camp of sorts. Watch this.
Right now, your learner hat, all right? I want you to put on teacher hat for a moment and recognize that this is an orienting question across the unit.
One of the things that the Office of Science Teaching Activities does is to provide professional development workshops for working teachers.
This is great thinking. I want you to continue to wonder.
Here this summer, right now, we have teachers from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade.
All right, so balloon number 1 we'll do hot because you want to do the hot water first.
And we're thinking more deeply about how to teach science organized around the way that students learn best.
Do you want the hot water to have the salt in it, or do you want the cold water to have the salt?
Being more aware of the words that you're using that may have been your style, and being able to go into someone else's style is important. And so you have to learn that. It's not something that you just automatically are like, wait, let me think like you for a second. So these workshops and professional development really help you think unlike what you grew up with.
So I think coming to a training like this, it really opens your eyes and gives you a new outlook on we need to actually get students to be thinking about their own type of learning and critically thinking about how they can apply these things in real life, because when they move on from high school, that they need to know that they can apply it to real life applications and things like that. I think it's very valuable. It's a great refresher to like really get me to remember, oh, this is why I do what I do.
Still to come on FSU Headlines, there's a new baseball coach at Florida State. First time in 40 years.
It's an honor to stand before you as the next head coach here at Florida State. This place is special. It's the only place I've ever wanted to be. And I can promise you, no staff will work harder or smarter to keep this program moving forward.
We'll hear from Mike Martin Jr. as he steps into the shoes of a legend. FSU Headlines continues in a moment. Welcome back to FSU Headlines. I'm Dennis Schnitker. It's the end of an era. Seminole Baseball's legendary head coach Mike Martin Sr. retired at the end of June, making 2019 Martin's 40th and final season. But the Seminoles simply turned to the dugout for a worthy successor, and Mike Martin Jr. will take over where Dad left off. FSU Headlines reporter Mark Vaughn joins us now with the details. Mark?
Thanks, Dennis. Well, Mike Martin Jr. is the new head baseball coach at Florida State University, and he came into his opening press conference with a couple of things in mind. Make sure everyone knew he was ready for the job, and that while he'll use a lot of the things his father taught him, he's going to be his own head baseball coach.
So we're here today to officially welcome Mike Martin, Coach Mike Martin Jr. as Florida State's new baseball coach. We're fortunate to have a lot of quality choices. We had a lot of quality choices for this very, very important position, but I think I know we have the right person at the right time for this post. It's an honor to stand before you as the next head coach here at Florida State. This place is special. It's the only place I've ever wanted to be, and I can promise you, no staff will work harder or smarter to keep this program moving forward. I am Mike Martin Jr. I am not Mike Martin Sr. There will never be another Mike Martin Sr. Nobody will do it as long or as well as he did. We're going to go at it hard. We're going to do things the right way. The core principles of this program and this university will stay the same. We're going to treat people the right way. We're going to work hard. We're not going to berate guys, language and stuff along those lines. We're going to do it right. We want the whole person. We want them right mentally, physically, spiritually, socially. And we'll go to the ends of the earth to make sure they have every opportunity to be right. But there will be things that will be done differently.
And like Dennis mentioned earlier, and we alluded to, 2019 was the final season for legendary coach Mike Martin Sr. The all-time winningest coach in NCAA history decided this past offseason to take away the mystery and let the university and, of course, the fans know that his 40th year would be his last. During the previous 2018 season, Martin became the all-time winningest coach in college baseball history when he claimed win number 1976. And he's now well above 2,000 with another 42 added to the record book this season. He ends his run as FSU head coach with 2,029 wins. That's more than any head coach in any NCAA sport. It was also the 17th College World Series appearance for Mike Martin Sr. and the 23rd overall for the Noles. And how did they do it? Well, the team went on a magical and surprise run to help Martin end his career in the place he always wanted to be each and every year, and that's Omaha. The Noles sweeping through both the regional in Athens and the super regional in Baton Rouge on their way back to Omaha. The team also saw a big matchup to start the run at the College World Series against Arkansas, yet another SEC team this postseason. They took home an incredible 1-0 win over the Razorbacks, and that put them in a tough matchup with the red-hot Michigan Wolverines, that to stay in the winner's side of things. But they couldn't put the runs up, losing a hard-fought game 2-0 to Michigan and putting them in the elimination scenario against Texas Tech. A late scoring run ended the run by the Noles, going down to the Red Raiders 4-1. Mike Martin, after his final game, though, showed why he's the greatest.
One thing that I want everybody in this room to understand. You had a heck of a year. You accomplished something that many people thought was impossible. Go on the road and play a very tough regional. Accomplish that, go on the road and play an even more difficult super regional. Don't sell yourself short of what you just did. You did something that makes us coaches extremely proud. You never quit. You never stopped believing that you could get to Omaha. You got to Omaha. You will finish around the 5th team in the country. I can't tell you how much I appreciate each and every one of you. This is a team right here that I'll never forget. You got to Omaha as a result of hard work and belief in each other. Mike, Tyler, Chip, Clyde, trainers, sports information, everyone that supported our program, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. What a tremendous year this was. And I, like you, am disappointed, but we're not ever going to look at it other than we gave it our best shot. And your best shot took this old man to Omaha. And I appreciate it. You seniors that are in here, I'll get a chance to see you when we get back. Thanks for your leadership. This team came into its own as a result of a few guys displaying great leadership. And now there's a lot of guys that are coming back next year that can show great leadership. I love you. I care about you. I knew you could do it. And you did it. You got all the way to Omaha, and with just a couple of breaks, you never know what could have happened. But I will do something for the last time that I know that all of you understand. Thank you.
Overall, it was another fun and spectacular year for FSU athletics, celebrating big wins in the conference and out. The university celebrated 50 years of women's athletics, and soccer took home a national title in the fall. The athletics department took home an ACC leading 7th place finish in the Learfield IMG College Directors Cup, which recognizes the entire athletics program at each university, and that's based on a point system of success. This just goes to show the Seminoles had another banner year. And of course, as always, you can keep up with all things Seminole athletics by visiting Seminoles.com. That's going to do it for us out here. Let's send things back to you, Dennis.
All right, thank you, Mark, for that update. And that is going to do it for this edition of FSU Headlines, but you can keep up with Florida State anytime on the university's official news website, news.fsu.edu. For everyone here at Florida State University, I'm Dennis Schnitker. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.